when you're using a metronome, what you end up hearing are the guideposts. So you hear this alignment, but you are missing all of the stuff that is actually in between there. All that red stuff is missing. If you use a play along, like any of the literal thousands that are on here, that helps with listening in because you're practicing playing along to a computer generated audio that is rhythmically perfect. So like if it's bass drummers, what I'd recommend is going to like the marching bass section. And I'd specifically recommend working on the timing playlist at the end, whether you're transitioning from one rhythm to a next, or you're working on your like triplets or your 16th note timing or 8th note timing, whatever. Focus on those while marking time. If you're a snare or tenor drummer, more so focus on like these technique exercises. So just pick the playlist that is like most relevant to the thing that you want to practice, and then practice playing along to that. And that's how you can work on listening into it. In terms of listening in as a full ensemble, the drummer would play a full measure of 16th notes, alternating into a full measure of double strokes, and then repeat it. So they just keep doing that over and over, looping it. And the center snare would gradually speed up and gradually slow down however they wanted to. So every time it was different. Sometimes it'd take like a minute to get really fast. Sometimes it'd take 20 seconds to get fast, etc. Forcing everybody to listen into the center snare to try and use them as a reference point. Legatos that we were doing with the 16th notes and the double strokes, etc. was just to play something simple that allowed them to focus on listening in. But you could technically do it with like even flam accents where you could have center snare slow down and slowly start to speed it up, etc. to work on listening in. But we would do that every day as a warm-up basically for our ears in addition to our hands. Using any of these play-alongs will help them practice at home, but as a drumline, the thing that you would do is like exercises like that to help for the whole group listening as opposed to individualized listening on here. Before I get to the next tip, I just want to say really quickly that you can find literally thousands of hours of free drumming play-alongs and drumming tips in the link at the top of the description or by going into my home tab of YouTube. What's the hardest part about playing clean with a full line? There's so many things difficult about it. When you're trying to play clean, you're not only trying to match things rhythmically, so like trying to get it so that everybody's playing the exact same rhythm, but it's also the height that you're playing at and the velocity, the speed that you take from your starting position into the head, and then the amount of contact that you have on the stick that absorbs the amount of sound off of it. It's super hard to clean a drum line because you have to focus on like getting rhythmically accurate. Then you have to focus on, well, is everyone using the same touch where the speed of the stick is the same, the amount of contact on the stick is the same, etc. It's not just about cleaning the heights and cleaning the rhythms. There's so much more involved with that, and that's what separates like the really good lines with some of the others. Like when I went and saw Boston in the lot this summer, went to the Arizona show, I can't describe how good that bass line sounded when playing unisons. Across all 5 drums, they had the exact same touch, the exact same sound quality, like everything about it was just phenomenal. And when I saw them in the lot, I was like, all right, they're serious contenders for high drums. When you juxtapose whatever drumline wins the Sanford versus like whatever drumline gets like 10th or 20th or whatever, it's a night and day difference in terms of the clarity of the drumline and the approach that they're taking with like how they're playing on the drums, like the cleanliness of it, etc. It's one of those things where if you watch a live lot performance and you go and you watch whatever group is going to get like 12th place, and then you go and watch whatever group is going to like get first place, and you're able to hear that in person, the sound quality is, you can't really describe how different it is between each of the 2 drum lines. Not just in terms of the grayness or the clarity of it, but just like how they're approaching the drum. It's just so much more refined. People were making fun of them because they had a ridiculously hard snare solo to clean. Like the thing that they were playing technically was rhythmically very easy, the shell, but the fact that they went, I think, from like 60 beats a minute to like 200 while doing add-ins is insane. It is like one of the hardest things that you could possibly do. And in terms of like trying to get that to sound clean. So they were playing very difficult stuff that is deceptively difficult while they were just going up against some groups that were phenomenal. I mean, the fact that they still got 4th place when you had groups like Vanguard, Bluecoats, and Boston just tearing it up. Even Phantom was thrown down this year. It's to be expected. You can't win them all, right? Like, it's not like they were a bad line. Was their drum break dirty at the beginning of the year? Yeah. I mean, every drum break was. But was their drum break one of the hardest ones to clean? Yeah. It was very difficult. And if you've never taught before, you might look at it and go, what's so hard about that? Try it. Try and actually to clean that with that many people. Good luck with that. I'd get a pad with a laminate on it if you're a rudimental drummer. Like if you're a tenor player, check this one out. If you're a snare player, check this one out. But I talk about and demonstrate what it sounds like with and without a laminate, but it's night and day different in terms of the articulation. The shorter you can make your sound when practicing, the more dirt you can clean up when playing along with these play-alongs. So if you have like a very resonant drum that you're playing on where every time you hit it is like bow, 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 all that extra resonance after that will cover up the rhythmic mistakes that you'd get. So if you are doing like one of the double stop exercises like inside of here, you would not hear the dirt as well as if it were on an articulated surface. But if you're not going for a physical thing, private lessons. I have studied with a lot of different people. Some of them only a couple lessons, some of them for months or years, and I've learned so many different things from so many different people who play different approaches, and that made me not only a better performer but a better educator, because I was able to go, oh well, this might work in this context, but in this other context something that somebody else taught me might be more beneficial. For marching snare drum, do I prefer traditional or match grip? Everything that I marched on snare drum was traditional grip. Everything that I taught was either traditional grip with the tilt or match grip if the drum is flat. So traditional grip on a flat drum physically makes no sense because the grip was designed for a drum on a sling. And so you lose a significant amount of rotation already if you're on a flat drum on traditional grip. The amount of like extra motion you can get will allow you to have much weightier or heavier sounding left hands if you're on a tilt. So if you want to play traditional grip, then do it on a tilt. But if you're gonna play on a snare drum and you want to play something outside of snare drum beyond that, like concert percussion or even like drum kit, what I recommend is match grip. It's more applicable. As a percussionist, not just a snare drummer, I prefer match grip, and which is why I exclusively like on these streams play match grip. So I have extensive amount of experience, several seasons playing traditional grip, but I don't like it. From an educational standpoint, it's super limited. Basically, the only thing that this is good for is marching on a snare drum, and then maybe you can get away with it on a drum kit, but it's not like you're gonna play traditional grip on timpani or mallets or really kind of any other instrument. So match grip is much more educationally sound, and I was actually a fan of in 2005 when Vanguard switched their snare line over to match grip. The schools that I taught at, they either played on a tilt or we just eventually switched over to a match grip, because the schools that I taught at, the students were percussionists, so they weren't drummers. I had all of college paid for, at least my first of 3 degrees, because of playing match grip and percussion instruments and whatnot. So marimba, like Steven's grip, learning how to play like Burton's grip on like vibraphone, learning how to play timpani, different approaches. Those will pay the bills more so than just playing one thing. And if you're going to teach, you're going to need to know more than just traditional grip. You're going to need to know how to do match grip, especially if you're going to teach a variety of different instruments. So I recommend becoming a percussionist rather than a drummer who can only play one thing, at least if you want to become a caption head like I was, because then you can actually teach all of the sections as opposed to just a snare line and just be a snare tech. It really limits like your career options and what you can do. But if you want to hear more about like my thoughts on traditional grip, under the tips and lessons section, this is like a 2.5-3 minute video or something on how to hold traditional grip.